Hey guys, and welcome to the first, and I'm probably going to make this the only video of week 12. Today we are going to go over, in this video we're going to go over working with transactions, and then probably what I'm going to do is post uh, some of the pages from the book that goes over concurrency later in chapter 16. I'm assuming most of you have the book. I know some of you don't, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and just post the PDFs of the pages. So that to be said, let's just jump right into it. So what is a transaction? A transaction is a group of database operations we combine into a single logical unit. By combining operations in this way, we can prevent certain types of database errors. And so that's really the book definition, but let's type out an example and then talk about it. So a transaction really looks like this. So begin excuse me. And so a transaction looks like this. So begin tran, commit tran. And so this basically signifies that we are starting a transaction, and then here we're signifying that we are committing a transaction to the database. And so in the context of a transaction, whatever SQL code we put here won't actually take effect until we run this commit tran operation. And so this allows us to basically put big sections of code in as transactions. And if an error occurs somewhere in here, what we can do is inside of our catch, we can do rollback tran. And this allows us to undo all of our SQL that we've done in here. So an example of this is going to be, let me refresh and pull up a table to insert into. Let's do territories. Insert into we'll say what, 8. Oh, let's do regions instead. So we executed our code and we inserted a new value into into region. And so now if we just copy all of this, we'll do use Northwind, select star from region. You can see we have a new region. So now, and this is really where the value comes from transactions. So instead of adding an 8 in here, let's put an improper data type for the insertion. And so as you can see, 0 rows were affected. Now let's do this. Print So what happened is we started our transaction. We tried to run this insert command, which failed because our data was bad. We then went into the we went into our catch, where we printed error, and then we rolled back the transaction. Now, that's not really showing us a good example, so let me give you a better idea as to what's happening here. So now we're inserting two new rows into region. So we're inserting one with good values and one with bad values. And what will happen, because we're using transactions and we're rolling back the transaction on an error, this new row, although we've run the SQL and the SQL has executed, we'll print, and then we'll get to here, we'll try to insert the bad value, we'll catch, and we'll roll back. So this value will not actually end up in our, this value will not be in our regions table. So as you can see, the first one was added, but the second one wasn't. And that's because, like I said, we rolled back the transaction. So all of the SQL that we execute inside of our transaction doesn't take effect, is not permanent in the database, can be completely undone. I could even do drop database Northwind, throw an error, and roll back the transaction, and until this line right here runs, none of that will take effect. Let's see here. So that's really the basics of transactions, right? So now the other part of this is that we can have nested transactions. So there's our first transaction, and now we'll do a second transaction. So you can see now, if we take a look at this, you can see now we've got records in here. So that's really nesting transactions, right? And so the next thing I want to talk about is save points. And so save points allow us to roll back certain transactions and keep others. And so let's do, let's clear up these records first. Delete from, and so when we use save points, we're able to roll back certain transactions and not others. And so let's get rid of the nested transactions. Whoops. And let's do this. And first, actually, I think that'll work. And we create save points by typing save tran and then a save point name. So first value. And so in this code, what will happen is we'll run our transaction, and when we roll back the first, this won't be executed, but this will. And so, actually, let's do this. Oops. I hate Windows. Oh, okay. Whoops. So I typed this up wrong, guys. So what really happened, so what will happen here is when we roll back, it'll roll back to the last save, up to the last save point. And so what we can do is we can roll back this second roll back to the second save point. So this will get executed, but this won't. And so now if we comment all of this back out, you can see now that the first one got executed and the second didn't, because when we ran this, we rolled back to this point right here. So if I had anything after this, or if I had additional save points after this, we would roll all of them back to here and we would still execute this. All right, guys, that is it for transactions. It's pretty simple. And like I said, I'll be posting pages for concurrency and locking because there's not really, most of it is, there's not really a lot of SQL to go over with it, right? So that is it.